Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Today I will discuss about classroom communication. This is lecture 6. Till now I have uploaded total 5 lecture on communication. You can go and check them. Those who are watching my video for the first time, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. This classroom communication topic is very important. You will always have MCQs related to this topic or around this topic. So this is very important. You can't afford to skip this topic. So here we start. The first thing is, what is classroom communication? It is simply any communication that is taking place inside a classroom is called classroom communication. This classroom communication is affected by multiple factors. Those factors can be teachers, students, messages that is being sent and received between teacher and student, instructional methods and media, and learning environment. Okay, so all these are multiple factors that affect the classroom communication, because teacher is always present in a class when the communication is going on between student and teacher. Then we have group of students, then the message is being conveyed from teacher to student, and in response student will give feedback or reply. Then teacher will use certain instructional methods and media to teach, and the learning environment, the whole environment of that classroom. So all these factors affect the classroom communication directly or indirectly. Okay, so here we have Cole and Chan's typical process of effective communication. First of all, the message is formulated, then it is encoded. This encoded message is transmitted to the receiver. The receiver will decode and will give feedback. Okay, so when receiver become a sender, then the receiver will also formulate the message, encode, transmit, and then finally when sender become receiver, they will get the message and decode and they will give feedback. So it's like a continuous chain. Sender becomes receiver, and at the same time receiver becomes sender. So they keep on changing their position. It depends on the channel or direction of the message that is being conveyed. But there is one thing, noise. You can have noise at any stage of communication. It can be present at any stage of communication. We will discuss about noise in detail. So this was the Cole and Chan's model. Next we have the first step, that is formulation of message. So all communication starts with message or idea. Message is simply what? It is a set of verbal and non-verbal cues. It is a set of verbal and non-verbal cues that is being transmitted to the receiver using a channel or media. So concerned teachers conceptualized ideas. Whoever teacher is teaching, whatever topic teacher is trying to teach, that teacher will conceptualize ideas that has to be conveyed to students by arranging them in coherent and meaningful sequence. Okay, why this is important, coherence and meaningful sequence? Because if ideas are not conceptualized in a coherent and meaningful sequence, then the receiver will not be able to decode what teacher is trying to convey them. So the decoding of message becomes very important for the receiver. That is why teacher has to encode those messages in a coherent manner and giving it a logical sequence that will impart meaning to it. Okay, so this was about formulation of message. Next we have message encoding. Once message is formulated, then you have to encode that message. So encoding involves converting an idea, whatever idea you have, you convert that idea to a form, to any given form, and this given form can be transmitted to the receiver. Teacher encodes their ideas in different ways. So what are the ways through which teacher encodes their ideas? So that ideas can be encoded with the help of speech, writing, signaling, or gestures. All these are the different ways with the help of which the teacher can encode the message in according to the demand of various curriculum. Whatever curriculum is there, or whatever topic is being taught, according to that topic or according to the demand of that topic or curriculum, teacher can use any of these methods to encode their message and transmit it to the students. Okay, so next we have message transmission. So once message is encoded, it has to be transmitted to the receiver. This is basically how a message is delivered. So it is being delivered with the help of a channel. Channel is a means through which message is carried from the communicator, that is sender, to the receiver. I have told you Berlow's model of SMCR, okay, that is sender, message, channel and receiver. So it follows that simple message, once message is encoded, it has to be sent to the receiver with the help of channel, that is C. So this channel can be in the form of written, spoken, verbal, non-verbal or mass media. I have discussed about mass media in detail, so please go and check out. Mass media is basically something that a message is conveyed to a large heterogeneous group from one source, for example TV or radio show or newspaper. Okay, so this was about message transmission. Next we have message decoding and interpretation. Once message is transmitted to the receiver, now it is the job of receiver to decode that message. So decoding is basically interpretation of the message done by the receiver. So whatever message is received by the receiver will decode that message or try to interpret the message so that the receiver can understand what sender or what teacher was trying to convey them. So if the receiver possesses the background information and is familiar with the language used, then it becomes easier for him or her to decode and comprehend the message. It is very important. If you are a receiver and you are familiar with that topic or with that message, then it becomes very easy for you to decode it, to interpret it. For example, you are going to the classroom next morning, but before going to the classroom you have studied that topic. So when teacher is teaching that same topic in the classroom next day, so you will become very comfortable because you have familiarity with that topic. So it will become very interesting for you to decode and interpret what teacher is trying to convey about that particular topic. Okay. Next is, if the receiver doesn't have the ability to listen. If the receiver doesn't have the ability to listen, read and think, then he or she will not be able to comprehend and decode the message. So these are the requirements of a receiver. The receiver should be able to listen, to read, to think, to understand. If they don't have these things, then it becomes difficult for the receiver to comprehend or decode the message. So it is very important for them that they should have these skills. Okay. So thus for effective communication, receiver is the most important. Yes. Why receiver is important for effective communication? Because any communication is considered effective only and only if receiver decode or interpret the message in the same way that sender has intended to send. Okay, then it becomes effective communication. So everything lies on the shoulder of receiver to make the communication process either effective or ineffective. So in effective communication, receiver plays very important role. If receiver is able to give feedback or is able to interpret the meaning of the message that is being encoded by the sender in the same way that has been intended by the sender, then it becomes effective communication. So this is about effective communication and decoding and interpreting the message. Next we have feedback and evaluation. So receiver will always try to give a feedback, and this feedback is very important characteristics that reflects that whether the communication is effective or ineffective. Okay, so feedback is a response or acknowledgement of the receiver. Receiver either give a response to the message or acknowledge that he or she has received the message. Teachers need to be aware of the subtle and direct ways of students for conveying reaction to the message received. So teachers should have familiarity. Okay, so teachers should have familiarity with the students' reaction, that how they are going to react when they are going to receive this message or receive this idea. In face-to-face communication, the receiver responds naturally, directly and immediately. So in face-to-face communication, that is when two persons are talking with each other face to face, in that scenario the receiver will react or respond naturally and spontaneously, and this is considered as effective communication. Okay, because of this immediate response and feedback. So this is called effective communication. It helps to regulate the conversation between two or more people. So in interpersonal communication, that is when two people are talking with each other, under that, because of immediate or spontaneous feedback, the conversation is regulated well, that it goes and continues between two people very smoothly because of transmission of feedback. So it basically becomes transactional communication where there is a flow of feedback or flow of acknowledgement by the receiver, and receiver sometimes will become sender and sender will become sometime receiver. So this is the indication of effective communication. This is important, that is noise. So noise is simply an interruption that creep at any stage of communication. I told you that this noise can come at any stage of communication. Noise is divided into four. The first one is physiological noise. So under physiological noise, it includes your hunger, if you're hungry, fatigue, headache, not feeling well, or on medication. So these are also part of noise, because when you are hungry or when you are having headache or some issues with yourself, not healthy, not feeling well, then under that scenario you can't concentrate on communication process. So it is like an interruption to the smooth functioning of communication process. Next one we have physical noise. Okay, so it is related to physical environment. If you are talking somewhere to anyone, but there is at the background traffic horns or lightning is not good in the room where you are sitting, so these are also barriers to the communication process. So this comes under physical noise. Next we have psychological noise. It relates to the qualities in us, that is in the person himself or herself, that how we communicate and interpret the things. So how we approach anything, how we try to understand, what is our frame of reference, simply anything to interpret anything, because we are receiver, we have to interpret. So it includes your biasness, your defensive feelings. You are always in the defensive mode, you don't want to listen to anyone. If you are over stressed, then you will not be comfortable to continue the communication process. So it comes under psychological noise. Next we have semantic noise. Okay, it occurs when words themselves are not mutually understood. So for example, there is any word A, and at one hand there is sender and at the other hand there is receiver. So sender is sending the message using the word A, but receiver have different understanding about this word A. So under this scenario, with whatever intention sender is sending a message, and whatever his understanding about this particular word, the same understanding is not acknowledged or understood by the receiver, then it is a noise, because they will not understand each other. What sender is trying to convey, receiver will not take, and how receiver is understanding, sender will not understand. So it basically occurs when sometimes authors create semantic noise by using jargon or avoidable technical language. Like if any author is using any particular jargon, okay, so it becomes difficult for the reader, because in that scenario reader is receiver. So it becomes difficult for the receiver to comprehend and interpret the meaning of the word used by author in the same way as it is intended by the author. Or if you are using any technical language, for example, I am reading any book, and in that book some word comes up and that relates to science, and I am a social science student, so I don't understand it fully. Okay, then it become noise. Another example of semantic noise is that, for example, there are two people who are having interpersonal communication, okay, but these two people are from different culture, they have different culture. So what happens when there is differences of culture between sender and receiver, then the meaning of words also changes. Okay, so whatever meaning is being understood by this person, that is sender, maybe the same word has different meaning for this person in his or her culture. So because of cultural variation, there is huge possibility of semantic noise to occur. Okay, so just pay attention over here, that whenever there is cultural differences, there is great chance of semantic noise to occur. So guys, this was for today. I hope you really like this video. If you like it, then please like it, share it and subscribe to my channel. You can give your feedback in the comment box below. You can join us on Telegram and follow us on Instagram. The quiz links are given on Instagram, so you can access them there. The link to Instagram and Telegram both are given in the description box below. You can visit there and check our Instagram handle and access the quiz link.